Okay, so here we have the trilaminar disc. We have the blue ectoderm on the top, which is going to become the neural tube, the green mesoderm in the middle, and the yellow endoderm, which is going to become the gut tube.
The amniotic sac here is represented by the purple balloon and is continuous with the blue layer, the ectodermal layer. Then below that is the green mesodermal layer, and then the pink balloon is represented by the yolk sac, which is continuous with the yellow endodermal layer.
The neural tube forms from the neural plate, which is a thickening of the ectodermal layer.
And it folds in on itself to form a proper neural tube. And as it folds in on itself, the neural crest cells, here in red,
migrate and become several things throughout the body, including the cell bodies of the sensory and autonomic nervous system. They also become the medulla of the adrenal gland and the melanocytes in the skin.
So now we can see the neural tube completely formed, with the continuing ectoderm going on to become the body wall.
The neural tube needs to close completely at both ends. Failure of closure at the caudal end will cause spina bifida. Failure of closure at the cephalic end will cause anencephaly.
Okay, so here we've returned the trilaminar disc with ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. The yellow layer that you can see represents the endoderm, which will eventually become the gut wall through folding. So if we try and show you this folding now, as we fold down, eventually this yellow layer, the endoderm, will connect and form a continuous tube which forms the gut. What we can't represent in this is that the blue layer, the ectoderm, folds up to form the amnion. Okay, so as a result of cephalocaudal and lateral folding, we have created a gut tube. This gut tube is formed from the endoderm, which is confluent with the yolk sac. Here you can see the umbilicus which connects the two. Okay, although we've shown the folding here separately, the gut wall, the endoderm, and the ectoderm actually fold at the same time. So if you imagine here, this blue layer, the ectoderm, folds up to form the body wall with the opening at the umbilicus, which here is represented in pink.
Right, we're going to have to make a switch from 3D to 2D for the next part. So to orientate yourselves, this is the balloon that we used for the amnion before, so we're now switching from that to a 2D amnion, and this is the balloon we used for the yolk sac before, and we're now switching from that to a 2D yolk sac.
So we took a trilaminar disc of ectoderm, which we said was continuous with the amnion, mesoderm in the middle, and the endoderm inferiorly, and the endoderm is continuous with the yolk sac. We're now establishing mesoderm inside the developing embryo and outside it. Within the mesoderm, blood vessels develop, and obviously we need to develop those blood vessels both inside and outside the embryo. As a result of folding of the disc, we drag this huge amniotic cavity that was our blue balloon, we drag that with the disc all the way down like this, so that our ectoderm, continuous here as amnion, comes all the way down, and we now end up with an umbilical cord forming, which has inside it the yolk sac and the connection of the yolk sac to the intestinal tube, and of course we've got mesoderm forming blood vessels, which will be umbilical vessels. So we end up with our developing embryo enclosed in an amniotic cavity.
Okay, two conditions in which in a neonate you can find the intestines outside the body wall are exomphalos and gastroschisis, and they're both slightly different defects. In exomphalos, the physiological hernia, which has come out and is absolutely normal, has failed to go back in again. So So there is membrane covering the intestine. In the case of gastroschisis, there is a failure of the abdominal wall, so that there is gut protruding out without a membrane.